Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Ed Patazik, Executive Director with New Jersey LCV. If you're just joining us, thanks so much. We're going to give a minute for all the folks to join into the room. Hello and welcome again. I'm Ed Patazik, Executive Director with New Jersey LCV. Thanks for joining us today for a call to action. Speak up for New Jersey, learning how to make and take action and have your voice be heard. We're really happy to have you with us. And I know folks are just joining, so we'll get started in about a minute or so. There is going to be a question and answer feature here. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to click on the lower bar where it says Q&A. If you can't see it, it's not hiding from you really. If you click the three dots, it'll expand and give you more options, and then you'll see it there, depending upon how big your window is. Again, just want to say thanks so much for joining. My name is Ed Patazik. I'm an Executive Director here at New Jersey LCV, and we're here tonight for a special program, a webinar entitled Speak Up for New Jersey, Learning How to Take Action and Make Your Voice Be Heard. It's critical for us in the times that we're facing, and we're really pleased to have with us two great individuals. The first is Matt Salton, who you'll get a chance to hear from, and also a member of Congress, Congressman Herb Conaway, who has been a tremendous asset to the state of New Jersey, and we're really proud to have him now working in Washington. So, well, let's get started. Again, good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today to speak up for New Jersey and learn how to take action and make your voice be heard. I'm Ed Patazik. I'm Executive Director of New Jersey LCV, and we work to protect New Jersey's environment. We advocate for policies that promote clean energy, environmental justice, and a healthier future for all in areas of air, water, and land. But as we know, achieving these goals, they don't just happen in Trenton. We're a New Jersey-based group. It also requires federal action, and that's why we're here tonight. I'm joined by my colleague, Matt Salton. He's the federal manager of our four states, including New Jersey, for policy. And we're also grateful to Herb Conaway, our congressman, who's going to be joining us this evening in a little bit. He's on a very limited schedule, so whenever he joins, we might just stop in mid-sentence because he's got important work to do down in Washington, and then pick up where we left off. So we appreciate your flexibility. And the key thing here for us is really to hear from you as well. So as we're going through, if you have any questions, feel free to hit the Q&A, ask your question, and we'll get to them at the end. In addition, if you want to change your name, there's like little dots next to you, and you can do that. I don't know if you can hear the dog barking, and then you probably can. Hello, Congressman. Good to see you. You can change your name. The three dots in the upper right-hand corner. There you go. You're on. We very much being here. No doubt New Jersey is making great strides towards clean energy, but the federal decisions, they can either accelerate or hinder the progress that we're making. And we know at the federal level, there are all kinds of ongoing rollbacks of environmental protections and shifting federal policies. And it's the voice of constituents like each of you to our members of Congress, including your representatives and your senators, that are going to advocate for the kind of policies that are going to protect us. These are the policies that are most important to you. So our goal tonight is to teach you effective strategies for contacting your federal legislators and share how your constituent calls really do have a direct impact on policy. In addition, we'll talk about other strategies that you can employ. We're obviously facing many political challenges today, and we want you to have the tools to take action and advocate for the things you care about. I'll mention I spent 3 years working for a member of Congress as a legislative aide. Before that, a fellow through the Department of Energy for teachers. I was a high school chemistry teacher, and I got to hear directly from constituents. And it's really important that you reach out, help provide information, because if they're not hearing from you, other issues are sort of taking the space, and it's a very busy place, just like your lives are, being an elected official, particularly in Washington, D.C. So we're going to cover everything from understanding the clean energy landscape in New Jersey to providing you with a step-by-step guide on making impactful calls to your representatives and other methods as well. So, Congressman's here. Thank you so much. Your name is great. So, Congressman Herb Conaway, we're thrilled to have you join us tonight. He's a former assemblyman and a longtime friend of New Jersey LCV. He serves as a freshman congressman, and it's my honor to introduce him as a friend and a colleague. He's been a lifelong resident of Burlington County. He's inspired by his parents' dedicated service. He holds degrees from Princeton University, Jefferson Medical College, and Rutgers Law School. Dr. Conway served as a captain in the U.S. Armed Forces Medical Corps before transitioning to primary care and later academia, where he was mentored and was also mentoring future physicians. So I want to thank you for your service, Congressman. And often over the time of me getting to know him, has given me lots of medical advice, which I appreciate and takes well. He served 25 years in the New Jersey legislature, leading efforts on healthcare, education, and veteran services. And now, as a member of the House of Representatives, he remains committed to advocating for healthcare access, environmental protection, and supporting service members and their families, among many other issues. So, Congressman, we'd like to invite you to share your thoughts on current sort of the political climate around environmental issues as an environmental group, but also like writ large, all the different attacks and rollbacks that there are. And if there's any positive news, we always love to hear that too. And then, our webinar tonight is really what can constituents like yours do to make their voices be heard? So again, thank you for being here and the great work you're doing. And I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Ed, and thank you for that very gracious introduction. And for those of you who are on this call, Ed's only 20 years old. So if you want to look like that, just have Conaway as your doctor, and you too can look like you're still in college. But let me just I'm just going to read a statement because it's too good. I think I want you all to hear it. But I just want to thank you for hosting this important conversation. It's certainly an honor to join you all today. The work that the LCV does to build political power for people and the planet has never been more important. We're in a decisive moment in our country where choices we make today will determine the health of our communities, the strength of our democracy, and the future of our planet. I'm proud to stand with LCV and so many advocates working to combat climate change, protect our air and water, and ensure that every community, especially those historically left behind, has a voice in shaping a cleaner, healthier, and more just future. In Congress, we've made important strides, whether through historic investments in clean energy, holding polluters accountable, or advancing environmental justice, things which, of course, are under severe threat with this current administration. But as we know, and so in respect of that, we know there's still so much more to do. That's why your advocacy matters. Your voices, your activism, and your votes will help drive policies that will protect our planet for generations to come. I look forward to working alongside LCV and as we push ahead for bold and lasting solutions to our climate challenges, to the task we have before us to deliver to the generations that follow us the cleanest and healthiest planet that we can possibly bring into being. So again, I'm very glad to be here. And I would say, in answer to your questions, that I guess the question on the table is one of the things that I have certainly discovered early on and joining my service here in the Congress is that there are people all over the country who want to come and see you. And our schedule allows for people to come and meet with me or meet with my staff. The staff, of course, as you well know, Ed, plays a very critical role in the information that is presented to me, so that it can be framed, so that I can get to the point of what we need to do, what I need to do in my advocacy, working, of course, in concert with like-minded people on both sides of the aisle so that we can put forward and push into existence the important policies that will meet the goals that you and I have just outlined, and of course that you in the LCV community and the other allied communities so wish to see enacted into law in our country. Certainly, it starts where, as a physician, as you well know, with getting the data. One of the reasons I'm so concerned about what's going on with the administration today is that they are trying to cut the legs out from under data across the spectrum. We see a brain drain of important scientists and researchers who provide the basis for good decision making, whether it be at the National Weather Service, whether it be at SAMS or at CDC. We just heard about very important cuts or very serious cuts that are happening to our ability to manage fish stocks and other environmental issues along the coastline here in New Jersey. And of course, this bill, baby drill mantra that the president even laid out in that, I don't know what to call it, that sort of campaign stump speech that he gave as part of the State of the Union address, is a very ominous sign for our planet, for the health of our planet, for sustainability, not only here and across the world. So the first thing we have to do is certainly advocate for that important resource. The knowledge that have been built up by so many dedicated public service over the years is restored to their rightful place, helping to drive public policy, public safety, and allow decision makers, one, to know what we ought to do, and then have the expertise to drive those policies out in the communities where and the other parts of our environment where action needs to be undertaken for public health, safety, and sustainability. So the calls that are made to the White House, as I've been out at rallies over these last several weeks, whether it be in front of the State House or here in front of HS or in front of the Labor Department, or even today with respect to some of the latest news about sloppy handling of sensitive strategic information, military information, that raising our voices collectively is critical. But we certainly have to use the courts where we know and understand that laws have been broken. Right now, the courts, in many ways, are our last line of defense because, sadly, there are not enough members in the Congress to change some of the laws and policies that are being produced by the current Congress, and so luckily we have could be stronger, but we have a strong framework in our country and a system of laws that will need to be followed, and we have a legal establishment that's ready and is already in the court, stopping many of the things that the administration has put forward. There are, at last count, I was at a rally or at a meeting the other day. We had a presentation just this week from Democracy Forward to report that there are now nearly or about 140 cases that are making their way through the federal judiciary. Those dedicated lawyers, public servants, have won 90% of those cases so far. Of course, the administration is going to continue to push the envelope and drive all those things to what they hope will be a very favorable Supreme Court a decision on many of these matters, whether it be dealing with the people who've been discharged from service wrongly, the various laws that they're ignoring, and the various issues with the budget that we know are designed and have been enacted to fund the various projects we need to do on clean energy, on environmental protection, climate change, et cetera. So your advocacy is critical. Coming to the office, making the phone calls, and organizing locally to educate your neighbors and your community, and indeed members across the state, is going to be critical to trying to change the narrative that right now is ascendant here in Washington. And of course, we've got an election coming up, not only in New Jersey, which will send a signal right straight across this country about where people are with respect to what they're seeing. And certainly we're electing a governor, but we're also sending, hopefully, if any of the Democrats who win, I'm going to be very happy through the primary. But a resounding victory by a Democrat in the next election will send a very strong signal. I know this is an nonpartisan organization. Will send a very strong signal that the country is moving in the wrong direction. Of course, unless if we can hold it and then keep our election system working the way it should, we're going to have, I think, a very decisive election in 2026. And everybody who has the right to vote needs to get out there and make their voices heard. I believe the righteous indignation, anger, and alarm of the people across this country who are concerned about democracy, fair play, and the rule of law will turn the tide, in my view, in another direction, and almost any other direction would be the right one, the way things look today here in Washington.
Well, thank you so much. And you can see why we love the congressman so much for his work and his passion, his understanding too of the integral role between elected officials and the constituencies, the voters, and groups like ours are working on advancing legislation and helping to connect the dots. I got two quick questions for you. Do you have a minute?
Sure.
So Shoshana asked,
As you know, I've got to run. As you know, having worked down there, I've got to run to a couple of other things before my day is over. But
yeah, if
please.
you yeah, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. We're going to go through some more conversations and nuts and bolts training. But Shoshana asked, is calling more effective than emailing? And then you added also just showing up and requesting a meeting or seeing if one of the staff members is available to talk about a topic.
Well, I will tell you that the volume of calls is tracked, and I think Rachel or one of the other CNN, I should say MSNBC or CNN, reported the enormous volume of calls that have been going into the White House. That can't help but have an impact, or at least have people think, are we going in the right or wrong direction? And hopefully will, I'm going to say, ameliorate the course of the president's on now. So far, what we're seeing right straight across the country has not had the kind of impact that it should. We're moving into the nitty gritty now of the budget, and I will tell you they are divided on their side of the aisle with respect to that. But I would urge people not to underestimate the principal motivation behind all that we're seeing here in the White House, and that is to impact the budget in a way that will allow for an enormous tax cut for billionaires in this country. All of these things that we're seeing, the decimation of the federal workforce, the indictment of the value of the various departments who look after clean air and clean water and labor and workplace safety and equal rights and a recognition that we all have a contribution to this country, whether you are white, brown, yellow, or whatever you want to say, that we all are part of one great nation that was great before Mr. Trump got here and will be great again, and will continue to be great going in the future. It's all about, all of these things are bent toward one goal, and that is providing for an enormous tax cut for the wealthiest people in this country. And they are prepared to grind average people and certainly poor people right in the ground in order to achieve it. And that is a sad commentary, but it is the truth.
I appreciate that. And that's actually our next question, last one for you. Mitch writes, my congressman is Chris Smith, and he clearly doesn't care about many of the things that concern me. And he writes, is there really still value in contacting with my opinions? Should I be contacting representatives in other districts who might be more open to my concerns, even if I'm not in their district?
Well, I tell you, assessments need to be made and are being made about legislators who, of course, are going to be facing the electorate in a little under 2 years now. And those congresspersons who are in districts that Biden won in 2020, or even that Kamala Harris won in 2024, are districts where we might be able to persuade that new member of Congress to take a different course and perhaps to break the spell that Mr. Trump has on them, and the fear, quite frankly, that of retribution that will come to them for breaking ranks. We see this now. We have lawyers that are being barred from federal courts that can't do their job. If you had anything, if you were involved in during your job at the Justice Department to bring lawbreakers to justice, that the retribution that's been visited upon them. And so it is a risk for them. But let's hope that they feel a sense of a bigger risk for denying and rejecting the will of the people. And so I would suggest that perhaps Chris Smith is not the appropriate place to direct your energy, but would suggest that those districts, and they've been identified, you can find them pretty easily, of Republicans, and I'm sad to say it's really mostly Republicans here now. The Democrats are by and large with are compatible and sympathetic and indeed supportive of the goals of LCV. It is our, and there's some friends there who I think will be with us, and you know them. You know that people have a mental record on the Republican side. They need to have their backbone stiffened, and certainly for those new members who are in Biden and Harris districts, they are more amenable to persuasion, and that's where your calls and letters and advocacy, in my opinion, should be directed from here right straight on through, certainly through this current budget cycle, but really right straight on through the elections that'll occur in 2026.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. I know you got other things happening in a very busy place, and your voice, your leadership there is so critical. And we stand ready to work with you as we have in the past and continue to do. And keep up the great work. Thanks for taking some time out tonight to speak with our members and share your insights. Excellent job.
Thanks for all the love and support over many years. I am grateful for that, and we look forward to listening and working with you to advance our shared goals in the future. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of it, everybody.
You too. With that, I get a chance to turn it over to Matt Salton. Just a little bit of a background for Matt. Matt, as I mentioned, is our federal policy manager. He's responsible for coordinating federal campaign efforts between New York and New Jersey, right next to each other, Pennsylvania, and also Maryland LCVs. He grew up caring about the environment, became an Eagle Scout. He's a graduate of Gettysburg College with a BA in environmental studies and political science. It makes total sense to be at an organization that understands that the elected officials matter, and to protect our environment, we need to ensure they're the right folks in office, but also that they have the right information. And prior to his work at the League of Conservation Voters, he was environmental action associate at the Hudson River Sloop Clearwater, and political organizer, as well as working on all kinds of electoral campaigns in New York and Pennsylvania to get environmental champions elected to office. And I get a chance to pass over the webinar to Matt and thank him for his tremendous work. Matt has been coordinating folks like yourselves in key districts within our region in the 4 states that I mentioned to help move members of Congress ever closer to where they should be for their children and grandchildren, pro-environment, pro-conservation positions. And so, Matt, thanks for all that work and for putting this together tonight to help arm us with the skills that we need in this moment. Couldn't be more important.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Ed, and huge thank you to the Congressman for providing those insightful remarks and for all that he has been doing to protect New Jersey's precious natural resources, our climate, and our public health. So tonight we're just going to talk a little bit about some of New Jersey LCV's key priorities on the state level, on the federal level, how they intertwine. So we're fighting for 100% clean energy and electricity by 2035 in New Jersey, as outlined by the forthcoming Energy Master Plan and Governor Murphy's Executive Order 315. Also by an executive order, New Jersey has an ambitious goal of 11 gigawatts of offshore wind energy by 2040. We are fighting for clean, renewable energy through solar. Currently, only about 7% of our energy is derived from solar. And through programs like community solar and solar on brownfields, there's a huge potential to expand that. Through advanced clean cars, too, and advanced clean trucks, these are federal rules that are working to electrify the transportation sector. Currently in New Jersey, that is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, and it's at about 42% of our emissions. But the federal government and federal resources have a direct impact on many of these goals. So by now, I'm sure you've all seen President Trump's executive order suspending federal permits for offshore wind. The project in New Jersey that had its federal approvals also recently had its air permit revoked. And so this is a very unusual time, and it's a very unusual action for a final permit. But our electric vehicle charging infrastructure in New Jersey relies a lot on federal grants, specifically through what's called NEVI, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. And there are many more examples of how the federal government should be supporting the actions of New Jersey to make our air cleaner, our water cleaner, and our communities healthier. So I want to touch on the gutting of federal agencies and how it is impacting New Jersey, a lot of what the congressman talked about. So first and foremost, federal actions are directly impacting New Jersey's environmental health, our clean energy progress, and our resilience to climate change. So we need everyone's voices to hold leaders accountable and to protect our future in this. So there's a lot of things that federal agencies do that we might not see on a day-to-day basis, but once they are gone, we're going to realize how important they were to begin with. So agencies like NOAA, which protect our vulnerable coastline through climate research and hurricane monitoring, that has seen some attacks. We all know the benefits of national parks and recreation areas for our mental health, and there have been significant cuts to staffing there. There have been cuts at EPA, leaving New Jersey, which is the state with the most Superfund sites in the country, particularly concerned. There is a huge chunk of the State Department of Environmental Protection's funding that comes from federal grants. And so then this budget season, that creates a lot of uncertainty on how that's going to impact New Jersey and our state funding. There are public health risks, where weakened federal oversight means higher risks of air and water pollution, which disproportionately affect communities that have already borne the brunt of this pollution. Coastal vulnerability is a particular issue with reduced climate research. There is an undermining of New Jersey's ability to prepare for rising sea levels. We've seen that in recent years, more extreme weather events. We saw it with Sandy, we've seen it since then, and they're just becoming more and more frequent. And then it proposes a setback to clean energy goals. And there's a federal inaction and regulatory rollback, which will slow down the progress that New Jersey is taking toward 100% clean energy. And the Trump administration impacts here are rollbacks on environmental protections like emissions from trucks and cars. There's a California waiver rule, which would allow states like New Jersey to have a stricter standard for the air quality like California does, and to adhere to that rule. There are efforts right now to undermine that, which would mean that New Jersey would be forced to basically have cars that have more pollution coming out of them. So we are working to make sure that that doesn't happen. And one of the ways that we can do that is by activating folks on the ground in their communities to rise up and make their voice heard on these specific issues, and making their representative aware and to pay attention to these issues, because that's what they are there to do. And the more people who reach out, like the congressman mentioned, the more that they kind of hear it. And when they can look at how many folks have actually called in, and then it's a staggering number, or emailed in, and they can batch those, that's when things really are taken to the next level. So what are actual ways that folks can take action? We've seen a lot of people at protests right now. We've seen a lot of people engaging with their federal elected officials, posting on social media, talking about it with their friends. And beyond calls, there are other things you can take. Social media, emails, asking for meetings with your members of Congress. Someone, again, the congressman answered the question, what to do if your member of Congress isn't particularly susceptible to this. And you should reach out anyway, because they need to hear from you, because you live in their district and they are your member of Congress. And usually when an elected official is championing something and you ask them why, oftentimes the first reason they give, even beyond the merits of the policy, will be because I have heard about it and my constituents care about it. And so this is a way to get out in front of it, and joining other grassroots groups that might be in your town that align with your interests. They might be ours. That all has an impact. And so we have several action alerts going out. And I'll pause here for a moment so you can scan these QR codes. And you can also drop your email in the chat and we can follow up with you to make sure that you get these action alerts. This is when we have found something impactful that's going to be coming up that we feel that we want to get a lot of attention around, that we think quantity is important. And so we will let you know when things come up, when you can reach out, and we promise not to spam you too much with it and really harness in on those certain things that are important. And there are actions our team has put together to advance 100% clean electricity and to speak out against federal funding cuts, tell the state to dedicate its own funding for climate resiliency, and to power artificial intelligence data centers with only clean energy, because that's an emerging big environmental issue. So I'd like to talk a little bit about calling. The congressman mentioned the merits of that, but tonight we're here primarily to share how to make calls and how to do it effectively. So the more people that call, the bigger the impact is, like the congressman said. And so if one constituent is concerned, it's likely more are as well. And the more they hear from, the better. So lawmakers track constituent calls and use call volume to gauge public interest on an issue. I was an intern in Congress, and there was a day when we got just a flood about a particular environmental issue, actually. And so the congressman, because of that, made a video to express his support for that issue all on the same day because it was just a lot and very unusual. And so grassroots advocacy works, and it has worked for and against environmental issues in the past. In 2021, grassroots advocacy organizing and contacting representatives actually stopped the fossil fuel Penn East pipeline. But it can also work against us, like when fossil fuel interests who are against good climate policy at the national level also mobilize. So constituent calls do influence lawmakers, and like we said, the more people they hear from, the more they know how important an issue is. Personal stories are even more impactful than reading a script, although both can help. As localizing it as you can make it, the better. And they listen most to calls from people who are in their district, since you are a constituent and you are a voter. So yes, your call really does make a difference. And we just want to go over how you can find your representative's information, and we can put that link in the chat as well. So it's important to find who your member is. When you call, identify yourself as a constituent. Tell them where you live, because they compile that data as well. And then let them know what the issue is that you care about, how it affects you, and why you care about it. And if you keep it personal and focused, that is when it's the most impactful. And persistence matters here. It's okay to contact them more than once. There's a lot happening. They tend to remember the folks who call constantly, and they remember that you might have called about a similar issue. They go, okay, we know they care about this. Not surprising that they care about this issue as well. So you can encourage your friends and family and neighbors in your district as well to call on these issues too, because then they're going to go, you know what, that person in this particular town, I've heard a lot from this town. Obviously, it's something that people care about a lot there. And so I'd like to open it up to any questions from the chat that we have. I can see we have a few here. Okay. From Stephen, what is the best way to approach a representative who is a moderate Republican who supports some reasonable approaches to the issues we are concerned with, but is clearly not able to articulate his position to Republican leadership? So what I will say here is that we have seen progress on that. In New Jersey, we have Congressman Tom Kaine, who did just that. There was a letter signed by 21 Republicans in the House to tell leadership, to tell them that when we're doing budget reconciliation, which is the process of talking about how much money is coming into the federal government and how much we're spending, that we want to keep the tax credits in the Inflation Reduction Act that go toward things like building clean energy grids, that go toward installing solar and wind and making homes more resilient to climate change, to make them more energy efficient, to get a heat pump, for example, that they signed a letter saying that we should keep these intact. And Tom Kaine was one of the members who signed on to that. And so I think they might not always be willing to publicly say something, but you can certainly include that in your advocacy. Say, we think this is important. We would like you as our representative to make that clear to congressional leadership, to Republican leadership, just so they're hearing it. So I think that's a very good way to go about it. Someone said, I'm grateful for Congressman Conaway for his contribution. He's holding an online town hall tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And I'm sure there's additional information is available on his website. Yes, that's also a good way to go about communicating what you would like to see happen, is to go to town halls if they are happening, whether they be online or in person, because that is a direct line with the member of Congress themselves. Someone is asking if the recording to this webinar will be posted online. Yes, we'll be sending it out. And yes, you can definitely share it. Susan, the same person, is asking, when I call, should I expect to speak to a person or should I expect to be leaving a voicemail message? Usually you can get a person online. Typically it's an intern with the member's office. Usually the DC office has multiple interns, and you can communicate your questions and your comments to the member of Congress. What I would recommend is having a little bit something prepared to say and to leave something with them, just because oftentimes folks might call and ask if they can speak with the member of Congress. And most of the time, like when I was an intern answering phones, you have to tell them, actually, the congressman is not here right now. They might be at home in the district doing events. They might be on the floor. They might be in committee. Members of Congress are rarely in their offices. And so it's best to leave your comment with the staff member who picks up the phone. And that way they can communicate it, they can compile it. And then that way, when they brief the member about what calls they got that day, what emails they got that day, yours will be included in the stack. Okay. Do we have any more questions? Okay, well, you can certainly reach out to us further, and thank you all for your thoughtful questions and for joining us today. It is clear that protecting New Jersey's environment is something that a lot of people care about. We've gotten a lot of folks on this webinar. We've gotten a lot of folks taking our action alerts. And it takes consistent advocacy in and around engagement from all of us to actually make a dent in what's happening in DC, because DC is a big place, a lot of people, a lot of actors. And so as much as we can uplift what we care about in New Jersey, the better it will be for it. And so as a reminder, here are some ways that you can take action. Just a quick rundown. You can join us for a phone bank we might do, where we call offices, help us amplify our message by encouraging others to call their representatives. You can email us at information@njlcv.org to learn about upcoming dates and events and times that we might be doing. We can drop that in the chat as well. And even one call can make a difference. Remember, and your persistence adds up. You can try to make a weekly goal of calling once a week or so, maybe calling this week. And remember, in addition to your member of Congress, we also have senators. So we haven't really talked about them. They obviously get a lot more, but they have a vested interest in what happens in New Jersey. So you can call both of them. Share these resources with your friends and family. the more people who are informed and engaged, the stronger our collective impact will be. And so we ask that you please stay engaged. We know it can be exhausting. There's a lot. The news is constant. Things change quickly. We're asking you to stay engaged on these issues, stay engaged in your local advocacy. We'll be hosting future advocacy events. So be sure to stay up to date, to sign up with us, and you can join our listserv. Someone asked to be added to it. Again, it's information at njlcv.org. So we put that in the chat. Give us a follow on social media at njlcv. I really do hope that you learned something today. You hopefully learned that your voice matters more than you may have thought. Take it directly from the congressman who fields a lot of this. So whether it's protecting clean energy progress or fighting back against harmful rollbacks, each call, each email, each visit and meeting moves us closer to a cleaner, healthier, and more just future for New Jersey. So thank you for being part of this effort. Let's keep the momentum going and let's keep speaking up for New Jersey. Thank you so much.